It actually has happened, and they have announced Ruse 2. Now, I'll just be quickly kind of detailing my thoughts about this. The trailer looks awesome, of course. The problem, sorry, not Ruse 2, sorry, Steel Division 2. Steel Division 2 is going to be set in the Eastern Front. Now, my thoughts on it are that I am not that excited, to be completely honest, because of several reasons. Ruse 1, sorry, not Ruse 1 again, Steel Division 1 was not exactly quite what it could have been. So it looks like they're having another go, and I myself had really thought that they were going to go for an expansion set in the Eastern Front rather than a new game, but it looks like they kind of just decided to, you know, screw this, let's just start over. Steel Division 1 is dead, it's time to go for the 2. And that's fine to be honest. So the game itself will be set, as I said, on the Eastern Front, which does provide for a lot of ways to improve the gameplay and to adapt to new kinds of mechanics, to kind of branch out the Steel Division formula, if you may. Now, the gameplay itself, I had enjoyed it back in the times when, you know, it was there, but it had a lot of problems due to the number of players. It had some problems due to the balancing. It had some problems due to the way the deck system worked. You know, there were a few problems that need to be ironed out. But now that they have announced a new game, I wonder what they're gonna do to actually improve upon it. I do not know, honestly, what they're gonna try to do. I will not follow the game very closely in the pre-release phase, but I'll definitely keep an eye out for what they're gonna be talking about. Now, a few of the things that they're gonna be implementing, they have already kind of released in their website. They are saying that it is gonna be a new type of experience in terms of the single player. It's gonna have a quote-unquote dynamic strategic campaign, which might be an interesting kind of mode, because they're saying that you could control your forces in a 150 to 100 kilometer live map, and 150 to 100 kilometers is to put that into perspective. Actually, here's a map of Belgium with that kind of square, and here's a map of Belarus, which is where the game is probably going to take mostly place, because, as I said earlier, it is about Operation Bagration. Now, this historically was a very, very important kind of very, very important offensive for the Red Army, and it led to the ultimate destruction of the German army group center. Of course, the sort of force that was holding the center part of the Eastern Front. And just to go a little bit into the basics of what it was a series of strategic offensives. So it had you know, far-reaching objectives to defeat the German army on the Eastern Front, and to essentially recapture Belarus and eventually recapture Eastern Poland from the Germans. What the Red Army managed to do in this offensive was actually put into practice the theories that had been developed before the war had begun and before the purges had kind of crippled this, you know, the Supreme Red Army leadership. It was, of course, the deep battle doctrine, and it was essentially the Soviet version of, you know, a combined arms, mobile warfare kind of doctrine. What you would call the German Blitzkrieg, although that's kind of a word that, you know, it's not exactly the most descriptive, but yeah, that's essentially what it was. And so it's a very, very good setting for a game, because it is kind of the culmination of everything the Eastern Front was. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting is that it kind of sounds like they're going to be relying a lot on this new kind of campaign system to at least market the game to a wider audience. You know, maybe people who play Paradox games or something might be more interested in this kind of massive scale RTS. Yeah, the main issue is going to be marketing, I think, for Steel Division 2, because that's exactly where Steel Division 1 really did the biggest, or had the biggest failing, is that it didn't market itself as anything other than a World War II war game, which didn't really draw in that many players, because war game players just went back to playing war game. And yeah, I was saying it was kind of a weird setting in a way to have, because for a single-player focused game, it is a absolutely one-sided kind of, not really just a battle, a kind of military engagement, a massive military engagement that was very one-sided in a way. Because at this point, the German army on the Eastern Front was very much kind of ruined. And just to give a few figures, this is according to the German historian Frieser. He claims that at the beginning of the operation, the Red Army had 3.4 times the men, 32 times as many tanks, although this figure is very much disputed, and 6 to 10 times more artillery pieces, which includes actually mortars, rocket launchers, and just regular guns. So, as you can see, the Red Army had a very, very big superiority, not because, you know, the Red Army had a lot of men or whatever. Overall, they had a similar amount of resources. It's just that before the battle had begun, the Germans had been kind of duped into thinking that the Soviet offensives were going to come north and south due to various deception maneuvers that were kind of prepared in advance. And so essentially they were caught with their pants down. But it is in a way kind of weird that in a single-player game you'd have such a one-sided kind of engagement picked. But yeah, that's essentially what it's going to be. So I'll be following this a little bit closer, and of course when it comes out I'll play it. But yeah, for now, tell me what you think in the comments. I hope that you've enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.